dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky. This is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. It's 5:30. I'm Will Puckett.
And I'm Cassidy Strickland. Hope your Thursday is off to a great start. It's off to a very, very chilly start.
Yeah, like 40 degrees cooler than what we were on like Monday and Tuesday, which is crazy, but a little bit of something falling this morning. Not enough to make a difference, and Brandon will be the first one to tell you that, but you know, it makes me happy, and all of our snowbirds out there, it makes them even happier too.
Listen, I'm going to try to get my words together this time around.
Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, but yeah, it's frigid this morning. That's the word I'm going to use, and you're probably going to get tired of me using it, but it's the best way I know how to describe what's going on outside. Let's take a look at the camera network as we head out the door this morning. Buffalo Mountain here in Perry County at 5:31 is pretty quiet there. Again, as Will mentioned, a few flakes flying. UVA-wise, a little bit more cloud cover there, maybe just a few brief snow bands moving through that area, but I haven't seen any accumulation there on the rooftop, so that's some good news. There is a little bit of accumulation of coating, if that, over on US 23, US 119 there at Jenkins, so be careful this morning. You can see even from the last scan we had just a few minutes ago, snow already starting to die off a little bit. Sorry, Will. And we're going to continue to see that trend throughout the morning. A little bit of visibility issues over into Pikeville there. You see down to 5 miles, maybe seeing a little bit of a brief, heavier band of snow coming through there at this point. Temperatures, though, that's the big story this morning. 19 Logan and Wise, low 20s across a big chunk of the area, continuing to drop. We're down to about 23 now in Harlan. They were a little bit warmer just a few minutes ago. 27 Middlesboro, Jacksboro, 25, and Williamsburg and Ashland, some of the warmer spots this morning. Wind speed still cranking out of the northwest, so that's creating some pretty good wind chills into the teens for a lot of areas this morning. So bundle up and limit your time outside if at all possible. Across the state and region, 26 in the Tri-Cities, Paducah as well, also the Music City, 23 Huntington, Charleston, and Cincinnati, 22 in Owensboro. 30 your forecast high. It's going to be a sunny day after a few clouds this morning, and those flurries go away, but those winds continue, and that's going to make it feel colder than that 30 degree, which is already cold as it is. The rest of the forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
We'll check back in with you here in a few. Thank you, Brandon. In political news this morning, 20 days into the partial government shutdown, President Trump is getting out of Washington. He's headed to Texas, where he will visit the U.S.-Mexico border.
The trip comes a day after another meeting with congressional leaders made no progress in ending the standoff. The negotiations ended abruptly when both sides refused to budge over the president's demand for $5.7 billion for border wall funding. He tweeted that the meeting was a total waste of time.
There will be no deal without a wall. There will be no deal without the priorities the president has put on the table.
We saw a temper tantrum because he couldn't get his way and he just walked out of the meeting.
Earlier in the Oval Office, the president said he'd heard plenty of support from some of the 800,000 federal workers not getting paid. They will all miss their first paycheck this week. Workers will receive back pay after the shutdown ends.
Well, the U.S. Coast Guard has taken down a tip sheet suggesting what furloughed civilian employees could do to make money to cover expenses while not being paid during the shutdown. This is a Coast Guard video that was recorded in 2017. The Washington Post first reported on the tip sheet, which was titled "Managing Your Finances During a Furlough." The tip sheet encouraged employees to supplement their income by, among other things, having a garage sale, doing some babysitting, or taking up dog walking. The newspaper says after it inquired about the tip sheet, the Coast Guard took it down.
Well, as the shutdown continues, new Republican Congressman Denver Riggleman is sacrificing his salary. Riggleman says as a freshman, he is still finding his footing and looking for ways to help Congress and the Trump administration break the political impasse. He says until a deal is reached and the government fully reopens, he will donate his government paycheck. That money will go to a volunteer fire department in Charlotte County that was hit hard by Hurricane Michael.
And President Trump is threatening to withhold FEMA funds from California. In a tweet, he blamed the forest fires in the state on the state, saying, quote, "If California had a proper forest management, forest fires would never happen," end quote. He then announced that he told FEMA not to send the state any more money unless California could get their act together.
Well, President Trump signed a bill against human trafficking in the Oval Office yesterday. The Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act tightens criteria to make sure countries are working to eliminate the crime. That legislation joins 3 other recent bills signed by the president on the issue, which allocate millions of dollars to fight sex trafficking and resources for survivors.
The Secretary of State made an unannounced visit to Iraq. Secretary Mike Pompeo stopped in Baghdad yesterday. Pompeo reportedly met with several Iraqi leaders, including the country's prime minister and its foreign minister. This is Pompeo's first trip to Iraq since the new government took over. Reporters asked him questions about the U.S. Navy veteran imprisoned in Iran for months. He did not answer those questions. He also did not answer questions about U.S. troops' presence in Iraq.
Voters in Denver may get to decide whether to decriminalize psychedelic mushrooms. An advocacy group has collected nearly 9,500 signatures to get the measure on the ballot in May. Federal law classifies mushrooms that contain the chemical psilocybin as Schedule I drugs, the same as heroin or LSD. That designation means they have no medicinal use and a high potential for abuse. Advocates challenge that notion. If the measure gets on the ballot and passes, it won't legalize mushrooms. Instead, it will reduce possession to the lowest law enforcement priority. Now, on the second day of the regular session in Frankfort, lawmakers unveiled the first pieces of legislation.
Several representatives introduced a bill to legalize medical marijuana. House Bill 136 would make the drug available for up to 60,000 Kentuckians.
Now, as Hillary Thornton reports, those backing the plan say it would help those who have, quote, debilitating illnesses and excruciating pain.
Today's a good day.
The bill's sponsors are calling House Bill 136 a trust your doctor bill. They say medical marijuana is a tool that medical professionals have been asking for, and they feel legislators should not stand in the way. The bill aims to help folks with conditions that don't respond to traditional medicine.
40 to 60,000 of Kentuckians who every day wake up in pain.
They say it would be up to the doctor to recommend what form of cannabis the patient would benefit from, but it does prohibit smoking in public. There are obviously some with concerns about the bill, including Senate President Robert Stivers.
And has been preached from law enforcement from years. It is a gateway drug.
And despite some opposition, the bill's sponsors say they do believe they have enough bipartisan support in both the House and Senate. Senator Dan Syme talking in support of medical marijuana, explaining his personal stance based on his battle with colon cancer 7 years ago.
When I left the hospital, they gave me that nice bottle of Oxycontin. I threw it in the garbage can and went home and smoked a joint. Okay? And guess what? No nausea. Was able to function while we was going through the treatment. It was during the legislative session, did not miss a day.
Representative Jason Nemes expanding on that admission by the state senator, saying he hopes they can stop criminalizing those who use cannabis for relief.
I've never taken an illegal drug in my life. But let me tell you, and I want to say it clearly, and I'll say it in front of every camera in Kentucky. If my son or my wife or my parents or one of my brothers and sisters would benefit from medical marijuana, tell me where to get it, even if it's illegal. And I would submit that 99% of Kentuckians would do the same thing.
Hillary Thornton, WYMT Mountain News.
Now, the bill does include regulations and guidelines for dispensaries applying to grow at home and for doctors recommending the use.
Another issue lawmakers will try to tackle is improving school safety. This month will mark 1 year since a student opened fire at Marshall County High School, killing 2 of his classmates and injuring more than a dozen others. At the time, lawmakers formed a team traveling around the state and asking school officials and communities for solutions. Among their suggestions, increasing the amount of school nurses, guidance counselors, and mental health professionals.
Well, as the General Assembly session got underway, new security measures were announced. Governor Bevin says the new rules will help keep people safe, especially after large rallies at the Capitol last year, while lawmakers debated pension reform. However, some say the move will limit the public's access to confront lawmakers and make their voices heard.
In other news, in August, a University of Kentucky student fell from a 4th-floor balcony. Now his father is updating everyone on his condition. Representative Chris Harris of Pike County thanked everyone on the House floor for their support. His son Corbin has spent the last 3 months in a recovery facility. Corbin suffered a traumatic brain injury after falling from that apartment balcony.
My family and I want to thank everyone for your prayers and concerns. So many people, members of this body, folks that work here in Frankfort and people from home, folks that I've met through my work in county government and now in state government, Democrats and Republicans alike, all have shown my family great kindness in so many ways. There has been no partisan divide in that showing of compassion, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Harris says he remains hopeful his son will be able to come to the chamber one day to thank everyone himself for their support.
Earlier this week, a bloodhound used by the Estill County Rescue Squad to find missing people was shot and killed. Now they are raising money to replace Hunter. They are selling shirts with Hunter's picture on them. They are $15 a piece. All money raised will be used for training and equipment for a new search dog. Hunter's owner and handler tells us a search dog costs between $8,000 to $10,000.
Well, straight ahead on Mountain News this morning, we will introduce you to the adorable Bacon Response Team and tell you about their future job.
Don't give up on your New Year's resolution just yet, because today's recipe is tasty and good for you.
You'll definitely want to warm up those cars this morning and keep the winter gear handy today, even with that sunshine. I'll have the latest forecast in about 3.5 minutes.